Have you ever stopped to think about what really makes us indestructible? In a world full of uncertainty and challenges, finding inner strength can seem like a daunting task. But what if I told you that the answer could lie in an ancient philosophy? Challenges and difficulties appear all the time, but why do some people seem to sail through these storms without getting lost? Today, we're going to dive into Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that offers us powerful answers to strengthen our mind and spirit. In contemporary society, we often feel disoriented amidst a sea of constant comparisons. Social networks bombard us with images of existences that appear to be ideal, while social pressure leads us to want to be, have, and do more and more. However, what happens when we seek approval in places where it will never be found? We feel an inner emptiness, insecurity, and our self-esteem suffers. It is in this context that Stoicism offers us a bold but liberating proposal: to live guided by internal values. True value lies in how we react to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves. This is the teaching of the Stoics: we can build an internal fortress so solid that no external storm can affect it. And know that this is not only viable, but crucial to leading a full, serene life with true personal power. When we talk about self-esteem, we often do so from the perspective of how others see us, how much they value or appreciate us. The first step is to understand that your value lies in your character, not your possessions. One of the most frequent traps we fall into when approaching self-esteem is the belief that our value depends on what we have, whether it be money, material goods, or professional success. However, if your self-esteem is based on your character, your actions, and who you really are, nothing and no one will be able to bring you down. Be the best version of yourself. That's the Stoic point of view. All we really possess is our character, which remains unchanged throughout life. If you base your self-esteem on what you have or what you achieve, it will never be enough. You will always want more and feel incomplete. When you realize that your value lies in your character, you will discover that you already have everything you need to feel fulfilled and self-confident. So instead of wondering how much you have or how much you have achieved, ask yourself, what kind of person am I? Am I acting with honesty and virtue? If the answer is yes, then you are already building indestructible self-esteem. The Stoics taught that emotions are not, in themselves, negative. The important thing is how we deal with them. Instead of repressing emotions, we must recognize them, understand their origins, and decide how to act consciously. By doing this, we cultivate self-confidence, as we realize that we are not hostages to our feelings, but rather responsible for them. As Seneca stated, if we don't control anger, it will control us. Allowing emotions like anger, fear, or melancholy to dominate can lead to unwanted decisions and a loss of confidence in yourself. However, when you pause and consciously decide how to act, you discover your true strength. This inner calm helps maintain stable self-esteem, even in difficult times. To take this approach, observe your emotions without criticizing yourself, but prevent them from controlling your actions. Pause and reflect: am I acting based on emotions or calm and reason? This interruption allows you to choose how to react, and over time, it will help you feel more in control and self-assured. Maintaining serenity does not mean avoiding intense emotions, but rather managing them so as not to harm yourself or others. By developing this skill, your self-esteem will grow, as you will know that you can respond calmly, regardless of what happens around you. The third step is to find tranquility in transience. Accepting that everything changes and nothing lasts is one of life's biggest challenges. People and circumstances change, and happiness can be fleeting. One of the most challenging truths to accept in life is that everything changes, nothing is lasting. People come and go from our lives, circumstances can improve or worsen, and what gives you happiness today may disappear tomorrow. For the Stoics, recognizing this transience is fundamental for inner serenity, allowing the development of self-esteem independent of external factors. Marco Aurelio reaffirms this idea when he says that everything is constantly changing, nothing is eternal. For the Stoics, the universe is always changing. The fourth step of Stoicism is learning to dominate your own thoughts and be master of them, a transformative lesson. According to the Stoics, our experience of life is shaped not by external events, but by how we interpret and react to them. Events are neutral. What really matters are our perceptions. Epictetus emphasizes that it is not circumstances that affect us, but rather our opinions about them. This understanding reveals to us that, although we cannot control what happens around us, we have the power to shape our perception. When you take control of your thoughts, you realize that many things that once impacted you intensely don't have that power unless you allow them to. Therefore, it is essential to develop a mentality that values this inner autonomy. Your self-confidence is linked to the perceptions you have of yourself. If you label yourself as inadequate or worthless, your self-esteem will be negatively affected. However, by replacing these negative thoughts with a more positive narrative, you can build solid self-esteem based on a healthier view of yourself. In everyday life, our minds produce both constructive and destructive thoughts, and the Stoics encourage us to observe these thoughts and avoid automatic reactions to them. Marco, in his Reflections, wrote that the joy of his life depends on the quality of his thoughts. This implies that, by striving to keep thoughts that are constructive, serene and anchored in reality, your self-esteem will be significantly strengthened. However, there is a fundamental aspect. Being the master of your thoughts does not mean ignoring negative thoughts or forcing artificial positivity. It's about observing your thoughts objectively, without judging them or getting attached to them. If a negative thought arises, such as, "I'm not enough," instead of simply accepting it as truth, you can pause, analyze it, and question whether that thought truly reflects reality and whether it is contributing to or limiting your growth. Questioning your thoughts allows you to realize that not all of them are true and that you can choose which ones to keep or discard. This gives you significant control over your inner life, transforming you from a hostage of your thoughts to their creator. Don't allow pessimistic thoughts to take control without being analyzed. When you become the master of your ideas, you realize that you have much more power than you imagined. You can't control everything that happens in your life, but you can decide how you interpret those circumstances, and this gives you impressive inner strength. Your self-confidence no longer depends on life's fluctuations and becomes based on your ability to deal with your own thoughts consciously. The fifth step is to face the fear of failure. The fear of failure is one of the most common and paralyzing emotions we all face at some point in our lives. Accepting that defeat is part of the process makes your self-esteem much more robust, as you understand that your value is not defined by a single result, but rather by your ability to bounce back, learn and move forward. In other words, your self-esteem stops being something absolutely binary, based on success, and starts to reflect your resilience and personal development. To apply this change to your life, start by altering your perception of failure. The next time you're unable to achieve a goal, whether it's a project, a relationship, or even a small goal, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what can I take away from this experience? How is this failure contributing to my improvement? This simple shift in mindset will help you see failure as a valuable tool. Not even the most renowned thinkers or leaders have achieved success without first facing several defeats. Marcus Aurelius, although he was an emperor, faced considerable obstacles and failures throughout his journey. What set him apart was his ability to remain resolute, learn from each circumstance and continue acting with righteousness and valor. The secret to developing strong self-esteem lies in how we face fear and failure, which often arise from the belief that our mistakes define us. Stoics argue that failure does not determine our worth. What matters is our reaction to setbacks. Do you settle or give up or stand up, gaining more wisdom and experience for the future? So, whenever you feel afraid of failing, remember that it's not the end of the world and that it doesn't reflect your personal worth. Failure is just a natural part of the journey of learning, evolving and becoming an improved version of yourself. By accepting this reality and facing difficulties bravely, your self-esteem is no longer at the mercy of triumphs or defeats, but becomes based on your ability to persist and adapt, which makes you much more resilient. The sixth step is to cultivate gratitude for what you already have in abundance. The impact of gratitude on your self-esteem is clear. When you constantly find yourself in a scarcity mindset, focusing on what you lack, you end up developing the feeling that you are not enough. However, when you direct your attention to what you already have, you realize that you don't need much to feel relevant. You are already fine as you are. This feeling of fullness provides much more robust self-esteem. Furthermore, gratitude transforms your perception of challenges and difficult moments. By only seeing what went wrong, you can identify something to be grateful for, even in the midst of adversity. This gives you extraordinary resilience, as you do not observe the world through the lens of scarcity, but rather through abundance. Epictetus expressed this clearly when he stated that true wealth does not lie in having great possessions, but in having few necessities. Exercising gratitude helps to reduce these imposed needs that we commonly create in our minds. Generally, we say that we need to have a lot to feel fulfilled, but the reality is that, when we develop gratitude for what we have, we realize that we need much less than we assume to achieve internal serenity. This understanding is genuinely transformative. Your self-image evolves as you stop seeking approval from external elements or future events, as you recognize that you already have intrinsic value, with what you already have in the present. The seventh step is to develop emotional autonomy, one of the foundation's essential elements of Stoicism, which proposes that our satisfaction and well-being should not be influenced by external circumstances. This also covers our emotions, especially those linked to other people. The Stoics teach us not to become emotionally dependent on what others think, say, or do. Should we be indifferent or emotionally disconnected from the people around us? In fact, the Stoics intensely valued human relationships and empathy. What they argued was that our emotions and our personal worth should not depend completely on these connections. In other words, it is possible to recognize and value others without depending on them to feel complete. How does this influence your self-esteem? If you constantly seek approval, affection, or validation from others, your self-esteem will be in danger, fluctuating depending on the treatment you receive or the perception that others have of you. Marco Aurelio also reflected on this topic in his Meditations, stating that the joy of his existence is linked to the quality of his thoughts, and not to external conditions. This covers our relationships. If you allow your happiness or sadness to depend on how others treat you, you will live on an emotional roller coaster. However, by deciding that your inner well-being is something you control, you become much more resilient. It directly reflects on your self-confidence. One of the most effective ways to promote emotional autonomy is to observe your reactions when you feel hurt, rejected, or misunderstood by someone. How does this impact your self-confidence? Does it weaken? If so, ask yourself, why am I allowing this person or situation to determine my worth? This simple act of reflection helps you become aware of where you are putting your emotional power and, more importantly, allows you to reclaim it. By exercising emotional autonomy, you begin to realize that true mastery is in your hands. You can't control it. Seneca very wisely stated that the strongest human being is the one who has control over himself. Part of this mastery involves having control over your emotions, which does not involve repressing or ignoring those feelings, but rather understanding that we should not rely on them to determine our worth. When you achieve this emotional autonomy, your self-esteem is no longer linked to the fluctuations in your relationships or the way others see you, becoming something deeper and more stable. To apply this concept to your life, start by identifying in which situations you feel emotionally dependent on the people around you. The Stoics understood that holding on to things that are no longer useful, whether thoughts, objects, or expectations, is one of the main causes of suffering. Learning to release the past is not just an act of superficial detachment, but a profound path to detaching the mind and strengthening self-esteem. By giving up what is superfluous, you create space to receive what is truly valuable. Epictetus put it brilliantly, do not seek for situations to occur as you wish, but wish for them to occur as they should, and your life will run smoothly. We often cling to ideas of how things should be, how people should act, or what we should have achieved to feel worthy, but these expectations, when not met, can erode our inner peace. As the waters around you calm down, this reflects the notion that, often, what causes us suffering is not what actually happens, but the way we hold on to certain expectations or concepts. By learning to let go of these expectations and accept reality as it is, we begin to experience an inner peace that strengthens our self-confidence, as we no longer feel like prisoners of what should be, but accept what is present and deal with it. Freeing yourself doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means that you consciously choose where to direct your energy and what to leave behind. This may involve a relationship that no longer brings benefits, a job that no longer offers satisfaction, or a belief about yourself that restricts your capabilities. By releasing these aspects, you regain control of your life and open yourself to new possibilities for growth, and with this development, your self-confidence flourishes. Another important point about the act of letting go is that it does not always happen immediately. It is often a gradual process. You may find yourself stuck in certain emotions or thoughts without even realizing it. However, the more you practice detachment, the easier it becomes. And, with each element that is released, it becomes more aware of what really has meaning in its trajectory, which also encourages us to consider this by stating that existence is extensive if we know how to use it. Part of knowing how to live is not wasting your time and energy on things that no longer add value. If you cling to what holds you back, you will never be able to move forward lightly towards what is truly essential. It's just a series of surprises that are yet to come. If you strive to do your best right now, you will be more prepared for what is to come, without letting yourself be burdened with unnecessary anxieties. Another important point from this perspective is that, by living in the now, you also detach yourself from the expectations that are often imposed regarding the future. Sometimes these expectations can be so high that when they don't come true, your self-esteem can be affected. However, by learning to focus on what can be done right now, without getting hung up on an ideal result for tomorrow, you begin to feel more in control of your life. True joy consists in enjoying the present moment without an anxious attachment to tomorrow. By living fully in the now, you discover that happiness and self-esteem are not linked to what may happen in the future, but rather to how you decide to act and feel in this moment. This is one of the most emancipating lessons of Stoicism. To incorporate this path into your daily life, practice mindfulness. Whenever you notice your mind reaching into the future, worrying about what might happen, ask yourself, what can I accomplish right now, that is truly within my control? By redirecting your energy to the present, you will realize that there are many actions you can take today to prepare for the future, without the need to anticipate challenges that have not yet materialized. These are the main lessons that Stoicism provides us with to develop solid and unshakable self-esteem, instead of seeking recognition in external situations or circumstances. The Stoics encourage us to nurture an internal strength based on our character and our ability to maintain serenity, accept transience, dominate our thoughts, face failures, and live intensely in the present moment. By applying these teachings to our lives, our self-esteem stops being susceptible to external adversity and becomes an internal fortress that no one can shake. Finally, the final step that Stoicism offers us is the importance of cultivating virtue in all our attitudes. For the Stoics, living in accordance with the principles of virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance is the true path to a fulfilling life. When your actions are guided by these principles, your self-esteem becomes something unshakable, something that no one can take away from you. The world around you may change, your material possessions may be lost and returned, but your character and virtues are what endure. And at the end of the day, that's what really determines your true value. Therefore, whenever you feel challenged, insecure, or in doubt about your worth, remember these guidelines. Ask yourself if I am acting in accordance with my convictions, if I am maintaining my serenity even in the face of difficulties, and if I am accepting that the circumstances change and I have no control over everything. But if I am the ruler of my reflections and I face failures with courage and I am living in the current moment and valuing what I already have. If the answer is yes, then you are on the right path to building self-esteem that does not depend on external factors, but that emerges from within. As you do this, you will discover that there is nothing more powerful than recognizing that your worth lies in your hands, rather than in the circumstances around you. Being indestructible does not mean always being invincible, but rather finding inner peace and the strength to get up after each fall. Stoicism gives us the tools to transform pain into learning and weakness into power. Remember, the true strength is in your mind and your choices. Did you like this content? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next tips on Stoicism and personal development.